G1 Supercard from Madison Square Garden. Felt weird to be inside MSG for a non-WWE wrestling show, but the place was packed. Other than the seats they roped off behind the stage and screen, the building was packed from top to bottom. Felt like a major league show with the set and the pyro. I didn't get a good view of the set and the stage and all that because of how high up I was. I was in the new catwalk area that they have at MSG since they renovated the building. There was a monitor embedded in the desk in front of me, so I really watched most of the show on TV, if I'm being perfectly honest. I didn't have commentary or anything, but I just sort of, I could glance down at kind of what was going on down there, but I was watching on TV. And this would unfortunately become a theme for me this past weekend. But look, I was happy to be there. I came straight from the House of Glory show in Queens, which was fun. Very cool to see the great Muda live. And also hang out, by the way, with Mish and Joey and Draper from Wrestling Soup. Shout out to those guys. I also walked right past JJ Dillon and Stan Hansen on my way to the men's room. They were just sort of hanging out, which was kind of weird. But I hauled ass on the train to Manhattan for the MSG show. I got there late. So I missed the entire Honor Rumble. And I was pissed when Minoru Suzuki was not on the show. When the show was over, I'm like, man, Suzuki wasn't even on the show. Only to find out that he was in the Rumble. So I missed him completely. And apparently Muda was in it too. Muda also came straight from the House of Glory show. He got there before me. Even with his bad knees, somehow he beat me to the building. But this it makes me sad that I didn't get to see Suzuki and like Liger, who I was excited to see, and I missed him completely, so that sucked. Then I found out Kenny King won. Kenny King won the Rumble. I was just thoroughly confused by the Ring of Honor booking on this show. Other than Roosh beating Dalton Castle in about 20 seconds, which I totally get because they're trying to build Roosh, I don't know what they're doing on the ROH side. I don't know. Their booking was very underwhelming on this show. It really, in a lot of ways, was the tale of two. I mean, I'll get into it here, but it was the tale of two shows between Ring of Honor and New Japan. That was the biggest takeaway for me when this show was over, at just the difference between the two sides. Jeff Cobb beat Will Ospreay to win the Never Openweight title. Great opener. Don't have a whole lot to say about it. I was, they had me engaged the entire time. I loved it. I thought it was a hot way to open the show. What I saw of the women's match with Kelly Klein winning the Women of Honor title back from Mayu Iwatani was not good. I think this was around the time I was distracted by the news that Bret Hart had just been attacked by some fool, by some degenerate at the Hall of Fame. So I was pretty angry. I gotta tell you, when I read that, I was pissed. I was so angry when I read that, and really was distracted for most of the show up until the main events. But this just wasn't very good. And when the match was over, we got a beautiful people reunion, a TNA reunion here with Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. Ironically, an idea suggested by Madison Rayne, who was in Ring of Honor and creatively was not satisfied, and she suggested why not reunite the beautiful people but do it in ROH. And she decided to leave the company anyway, to go back to Impact, and they reformed the group without her. And they just added Mandy Leon, so she's part of the group now. The crowd did not like any of this at all. I can tell you that. Being there live, I hope it came across that way on TV. They did not like any of this. So who came out to answer Bully Ray's open challenge to a New York City street fight? Was it Suzuki? No. Was it Ishii? No. Juice Robinson had accepted, but he was laid out backstage, so they played it up. Well, it's not going to be Juice. Who's it going to be? It turned out to be Flip Gordon. I know they've been telling this story now for months, and in that respect, I guess it makes sense, but whatever. This ended up turning into a giant brawl with Silas Young out there, Mark Haskins. Juice Robinson did eventually make his way out. Almost 20 minutes they gave this. And if you're into the garbage, pale shots and the canes and the weapons and all that, what you would expect probably from a New York City street fight, then you probably like this. I just wasn't into it. Gordon won with the 450. The junior heavyweight three-way was fun for the time that they gave it. I mean, they gave the Bully Ray stuff more time than they gave this. Dragon Lee pinned Bandito to win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title held by Taiji Ishimori. And by the way, you're going to have people who say, well, Solomonster. More people were probably into the Bully Ray hardcore stuff than they would be a random three-way with three guys who are small and maybe some people don't know who they are. It's all about knowing your audience. The crowd at this show was made up of people who, believe me, would want to see Ishimori and Bandito and Dragon Lee get an extra 5 or 10 minutes off the Bully Ray bullshit. It's all about knowing your audience. In front of a WWE crowd, yeah, you might be right. You probably would be right. But not here. So, Dragon Lee is the new champion. One of my favorite parts of the entire show was the entrances for the tag team match. We got the PCO entrance. I thought the PCO electric chair entrance where he's in the chair and they shock him to life. I just thought that was so much fun to see live. 25 years after defending the tag team titles in this very building at WrestleMania, he is back to defend the tag team titles again, this time for ROH. I got a text from my brother when this was over. He was watching at home, asking, was that Pierre? Like, he doesn't follow the Ring of Honor stuff a lot. He barely follows WWE these days. And he's like, is that Pierre? And I said, yes. And he goes, he's awesome. I said, I know. He's PCO. He also took a disgustingly dangerous double powerbomb bump from the Gorillas of Destiny out to the floor. That would be a dangerous bump at any age. I mean, it would be a dangerous bump if you were 20 years old, let alone if you're 51 years old. My jaw literally, it dropped when I saw him just splat on the ground outside like that. Everybody else's did too. I mean, you heard the reaction from the crowd. Oh my God. People thought he was dead. I mean, nobody to catch him. Thin mats outside the ring. Guy's 51 years old. These guys powerbombed the fuck out of him. Almost rolled him up. He almost landed on his head. And then he sat up. And the place erupted. That was the scariest thing I saw, other than, the length of time that WrestleMania went. That was the scariest thing I saw all weekend. Wow. I can't get over that bump. Unreal. I mocked his idea last summer. PCO was giving interviews. He was really starting to get that gimmick over. This is before he signed the contract with Ring of Honor. And he's giving all these interviews and talking about it, this career resurgence that he's having. And he says that his dream match, the match that he really wanted, was a match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 35. That's the match that he wanted before he signed with ROH. That's the match he was pushing for. And I dismissed it at the time. I said, this guy's crazy. He's out of his mind. I mocked the idea. The more I see of him and the more I see of this character, you know what? That match doesn't seem like such a far out idea anymore. I dig it. I mean, it won't ever happen. But the two undead older guys with the big fancy entrances beating the holy hell out of each other. I mean, PCO would probably hold up physically better than The Undertaker would. PCO's out there doing cannonball dives and swantons on the apron, taking power bombs to the floor. Undertaker at least knows his limitations. I don't think he's done his dive out over the top rope since WrestleMania 27. And the only reason he probably didn't do it at WrestleMania 28 is because he was inside Hell in a Cell. He couldn't do it. Thankfully, I don't think we've seen him try that since. But we had a gun stun to Brody King, who's PCO's partner, into the Super Powerbomb, and the Gorillas of Destiny are now double tag team champions. Ring of Honor tag team champions, IWGP tag team champions. They were my pick to win, so I was happy. And this is where Enzo Amore and Big Cass jumped the railing at ringside as soon as this match ended, and a giant brawl broke out at ringside. With the Briscoes, Bully Ray came back out. They were stiffing these guys with shots. And it was a total work. And I knew right away, within, I'd say, 2 minutes, it was obvious to me being in the building that this whole thing was a setup. And it shocked me how many people watching on TV thought it was real, and I didn't realize that they didn't show much of this on TV. That was by design. They didn't want to show it. They wanted to make it feel more real. But being in the building and watching what was going on, and I was watching security in particular, you can see security never budged during this entire thing. Now, these guys, and look, Enzo, he didn't even jump the railing. He just made a fuss in the front row or whatever row it was at the Survivor Series, was it? And the female security guard tackled him to the ground and they carried him out of the building. You think at Madison Square Garden, these guys jump over the railing, especially after what had just happened earlier in the night at over at the Barclays Center with Bret Hart. This is Madison Square Garden. You think these two fools jumping over the barricade when it wasn't planned, they would just let them go ahead and brawl with the talent at ringside? So that to me was a dead giveaway that this whole thing was a setup. But hey, to their credit, they fooled a lot of people. They probably fooled a lot of you. Good for them. Good for them. And I gave this faint praise for one other reason. Not that I am a fan of these guys being back, and I'm both big Cass and Enzo fans, I could give two shits. But I said it was smart for them to put their differences aside. Enzo has said that when he saw the video of Cass having the seizure at the House of Hardcore show, he just realized, look, life's too short. I got to reach out to my boy. They made up because they were on the outs. They had not spoken in a long time. They were not friends anymore. And so they kissed and made up. And they realized that together, they can make more money than they can apart. And that's smart. It's true. There are going to be but maybe they just, maybe they get a Ring of Honor contract. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just work independent shows. Cass and Enzo as a tag team, as a package deal, they will get booked. And they will make some good money. And they're smart enough at least to realize that and put their differences aside. So I kind of credited them with that. As far as, what happened here, I read in The Observer that Ring of Honor didn't even tell the talent that these guys were coming out. So Tama Tonga and Tangaloa are in the ring. They just became dual tag team champions, which is supposed to be a big deal. And their win is completely overshadowed by Enzo fucking Amore outside the ring. What a clown show. They're not even signed to contracts yet. They may not be signed to contracts. But they wanted to get people talking. And look, for one night anyway, it worked. But to not tell the talent and kind of ruin what should have been a big moment, it's just, I don't know. That just reeked of clown show to me. They're calling themselves, by the way, now NZO, so that's Enzo, and Kaz with a Z, XL. They're calling themselves Free Agents with a Z at the end. I love that. Just add a Z at the end of everything. Yeah, I'll add a couple of Z's the next time I see them on TV. But hey, like I said, for their careers, it's a smart move. Judging by the reaction that this has gotten, I don't think it would be maybe the smartest move for Ring of Honor to sign them, but I don't know. Look, sometimes people hate you enough they're willing to pay money to see you get your ass kicked, and I don't know yet if it's that kind of heat they have or if they would chase viewers away from Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor needs something going right now to generate buzz. That's the biggest thing they're missing. Not to the degree of Impact. Impact is practically non-existent. So for all the things I hear about how great the wrestling is and the stories, and they've really turned things around, they have no buzz whatsoever. You practically never even hear about them. I wouldn't say Ring of Honor is in quite the same position where they have no buzz whatsoever, but there really is no, I don't know, it just feels like there's no real excitement right now around the product. There was going into this show, but I think that was largely because of the New Japan tie-in. So if it takes Enzo and Cass to piss people off and get people talking about Ring of Honor again, I don't know, maybe it isn't the worst thing in the world for them to be doing. Zak Sabre Jr. retained his Rev Pro British Heavyweight title over Hiroshi Tanahashi. Used his Napalm Death submission for the finish. Great match, I thought, between these two. I just love seeing Tanahashi make his entrance live at MSG for the first time. Apparently he suffered an elbow injury last weekend. It may have been, I don't know if it was during this match or one of the other matches he wrestled over the weekend, but it looks like he may be missing some time because of that. Kota Ibushi and Tetsuya Naito for the IWGP Intercontinental title. Ibushi wins the gold. Now, of course, that he's actually signed to a contract, and he's not just freelancing. He wins the Intercontinental Championship. They put the IC title on him, and the place went nuts for this. This whole match, really. It just felt special from the moment these two got into the ring. You knew they were going to have a great match. I mean, it would be impossible, I think, for these two not to. And they delivered. And Ibushi got the win with the Kamigoye. I love this match. I thought this was the best match on the entire show. with the main event behind that at number 2. We had Jay Lethal, Matt Taven, and Marty Scurll, triple threat ladder match for the Ring of Honor World title. Like the Honor Rumble finish, the finish here with Taven winning just, I don't know, it left me baffled. Now they must know that Scurll is probably gone the minute his contract is up, so that may have played into their thinking here. Although I think he still has some time left on his deal. I don't know, Matt Taven as the Ring of Honor World Champion. The match was good, but I don't know, never really felt like that big epic main event that you'd hope for in a show like this. Even though they went 30 minutes and they killed each other with some of these ladder spots, there was one point where, I forgot who it was. It might have been Marty, but somebody threw a ladder out of the ring and it struck a fan in the front row. I think it hit him in the knee maybe, or I don't know if it hit him in the arm or the leg, but there was a huge, even from way up, 5,000 miles in the air where I was sitting, you could see there was a commotion going on, and they sent some of the staff at ringside, to ringside to make sure the fan was okay. They probably gave him some free shit. There was a lawsuit chant that broke out inside Madison Square Garden, which is what all of us were thinking. You gotta be more careful than that. I mean, the guy he seemed to be okay. He told them that he was okay, but you can't be throwing ladders around like that. So Taven wins the championship, and all right, we'll see where it goes, I guess. I mean, that wouldn't have been my choice for Ring of Honor World Champion, but Jay Lethal's had the title for a while now. Scurll probably is on his way out. Maybe they just felt like he's the best option, but, there weren't too many people when this match was over who were happy with that decision. And then we had the real main event. IWGP Heavyweight Championship on the line. Jay White defending against Kazuchika Okada. Okada wins back the IWGP title inside Madison Square Garden. I got to see an Okada IWGP title win live. I didn't even have to fly to Japan for it. So I was happy. Long match, even longer than the ladder match. Probably too long. First half, I gotta say, pretty boring. Pretty boring. For as late in the night as it was, I was like, all right, guys, we get the point. Pick up the pace here. And then it did. It finally picked up. Now, look, I've seen much better Okada matches than this, but this was still a very good match. Rainmaker, Tombstone, Rainmaker for the win. That's 5 IWGP titles now for Okada. I don't know if this aired or not, but Okada took the mic after the match. He thanked the crowd, send them home happy. The difference in the Ring of Honor and the New Japan portions of this show was like night and day. That, to me, was the biggest story coming out of this. Is that whatever's going to be with All Elite Wrestling, and maybe they can work with multiple promotions, but they better hope and pray, Ring of Honor, that they can maintain this relationship with New Japan. Because I've talked about this before, and I've said, it's mutually beneficial for both sides, and it is. New Japan is trying to expand their footprint in this country, and to partner with a promotion like Ring of Honor is very helpful to them. But after this show was over, I looked at that and I said, in this relationship, I think it's more beneficial for Ring of Honor than it is for New Japan. I could tell you that a lot of the people in the building and in my section and the people who I was talking to were there for New Japan. They were there for the New Japan stuff. Now, on the whole, I liked the show, but without the New Japan stuff, this show would have been a total miss. There's absolutely no chance that they could come back to the Garden for another show like this without the New Japan crew. None. Not unless they want to play to a half-empty building. I don't see it.